Ukraine is taking steps to open an office of the International Criminal Court in Kyiv, as Russian forces say they have encircled Bakhmut.
Anger in Greece as students take to the streets to demand the government assume responsibility for Tuesday's train crash.
Why I'm here.
Ukraine is taking steps to open its own international criminal court. Its reason to eventually prosecute Russian officials responsible for the war. According to Kyiv, Russian forces have committed over 70,000 war crimes since the fighting began last year.
Перше, чого ми маємо досягти, наше об'єднання заради справедливості має стати потужним імпульсом для прийняття Генеральною асамблеєю ООН проєкту української резолюції, що сприятиме створенню спеціального трибуналу щодо злочину агресії Росії проти України.
In Bakhmut, snipers are reinforcing their positions as Russian forces pounded the last routes out of the city. And Russia's Wagner paramilitary group says its forces have practically encircled it. Almost 700 kilometers away, a city mourns the loss of one of its soldiers, who went missing over a year ago when fighting began. For a long time, his relatives held out hope that he was captured but alive, and his child was named Vera, for belief in his honor.
German Chancellor Olaf Scholz arriving at the White House on Friday for a private meeting with President Biden. And as Kyiv and Moscow ready for spring offensives, a show of unity from the two leaders over their ongoing support for Ukraine, including a further $400 million in U.S. assistance.
We've driven historic changes at home and, increasing defense spending and diversifying away from Russian energy sources. Together we work lockstep to supply critical security assistance to Ukraine, and from everything from what we've done in lockstep: ammunition, artillery, armored tanks, air defense systems.
And the transatlantic partnership is really in a very good shape today, and this is very much thanks to your leadership. So I'm really happy to be here.
Washington and Berlin have worked closely on sending military and humanitarian aid to Kyiv, but previously clashed over the issue of providing tanks.
Recovery teams have spent a third day scoring through the wreckage in Tempe, Greece, the site of Tuesday's devastating train crash. The bodies were identified with next of kin DNA samples and were returned to loved ones in closed caskets. Some relatives are still waiting outside a hospital in the central city of Larissa for test results.
Δεν έχουμε καμία ενημέρωση του που βρίσκεται. Ήταν σε ένα βαγόνι από το οποίο σώθηκαν πολλά παιδιά. Κάνω μια έκκληση προς όλα τα παιδιά τα οποία βγήκαν από αυτό το βαγόνι, αν τον είδανε στη θέση 22.
Meanwhile, in Athens, some 2,000 students took to the streets. They, alongside unions and rail workers, accused the government of neglecting the railway system for years. Meanwhile, it says that the crash was due to human error. Messages of "it was not an accident, it was a murder" could be read among the signs written in red paint next to government buildings. Some threw petrol bombs and set garbage bins on fire while officers responded with volleys of tear gas. Many of the 350 passengers on the train were university students themselves.
For a pair of siblings in Italy, the crime business was truly a family affair. Rosalia Messina, the sister of a top Sicilian mafia boss, was arrested on Friday. Her charge, helping her brother run his criminal operation while he was hiding. Her brother and top mafia boss Matteo Messina Denner was arrested in January after spending 3 decades on the run. He has since been tried for dozens of murders, including a pair of 1992 bombings that killed top anti-mafia prosecutors.